Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 3 of the painting of Blue Angel. If you're not familiar with the character, it is my own personal character of Blue Angel or Blute Angel. Many very different types of things that I've done for this creation. I've made him out of polymer clay this time. I made a whole full statue, but I've made other things in the past. If you want to check out anything I've done, get to go and check out all of the creation station where all of the artworks is done. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Blute084, BLUT084, art and games, and we are live right now, so you can leave some comments. But if you are watching the recorded version, you'll know that it's all going to get sped up, because also when I do some live streams, I also record them so you guys can watch them back, but in a sped up version. But if you do like to listen to what I'm listening to, or you want to hear what I'm actually talking about, then yeah, it's best to watch the live streams. We've got an audiobook in the background to listen to today. We're continuing on with the audiobook that we've already been listening to, that we've like the past 2 episodes. Again, we've already put 2 coats on this one here, so it's not going to take too much painting today. I just want to cover up the parts that were quite dark. Let's give you a quick little zoom in there. As you can see up around the wings there, the blue is still sort of showing through. So I don't want that. So I'm going to try and get rid of that in today's video. Lighten up the skin tone for a little bit lighter blue maybe. I don't think much is needed for the clothing, because that's kind of looking the way I want it to. And we've got a nice tone of dark blue on there. And we're going to, like I say, it's got a little tail and stuff. So if you don't know what we made this out of, it's polymer clay or Fimo, if you've ever used that stuff before. And if you want any more information about that, then check out the other videos in the playlist. But that's the Creation Station playlist. But I'm going to be getting on with some of this. I'm not sure if I'm going to get a call in about half an hour. It's possible I will get a call in about half an hour. So I'll have to stop doing this. But if I do need to stop, what I'll do is I'll come back and record the rest of it tonight, and then through the weeks coming, I will edit all the stuff that I've done for the past couple of days, like I did with the polymer clay and all the polymer clays that I've done. Do a sped up version, you can see on the PlayStation that I'm looking at the camera right now. But yeah, these are the paints that I use, all acrylic, because I've got so fed up with making the these ones here, because I used watercolored paint. I mean, it's dried okay, but as you can see, it's just flaking off, and it chips off so easily. I don't want to use that paint anymore. I mean, they look okay. Like I said, we did make that one there as well. But yeah, I'm not too keen on the watercolor. And this gives me a nice finish for the acrylics, because it's more of a it's not a water-based. You can water it down, but it's not a water-based paint. It's more of a glue, no, plastic, I would say. Like, how would you say, like a vinyl finish to everything. So it leaves a nice sheen where you want it to be shiny, and well, if you don't want it to be shiny, you can rough it out and stuff. But I like the way it's looking. I like the way that the colors have sort of now mixing together and looking a lot brighter now it's all dried in. Like I said, I'm going to be coloring it a little bit lighter on the wing, on the actual what they call, not wings, but on the wings, but on the feathers themselves are going to be a bit more lighter, because as you see on this picture here, that their wings are very much yellow, whereas the bones, should we call them, arms of the wings, I don't really know what. That's a bit orange, and the actual feathers are yellow, as they're the 2 colors of the hero that I'm creating, which is yellow and blue. All my colors are general. My general colors are yellow and blue. You've got Jacksepticeye with his green, and you've got Markiplier with his red, and then there's me with my blue and yellow. I like my blue and yellow. I think it mixes quite well for a general color, as if you've seen on my GTA streams, all of my vehicles are painted either in a blue or in yellow and blue. I really do like the color of the 2 mixing together. I don't know what you think, but hopefully you will do too. let me know in the comments if you're watching, and if you're watching live. But if you're watching back, you can still leave a comment down below in the comments down there. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ding the bell for notifications, because there's going to be another creation with wings. But I've got another idea. I'm going to be using one of those little, what they call tech decks. Do you remember those tech decks? I can't actually see where I've left the tech deck. I probably did put it away somewhere for later. But yeah, a little tech deck that I'm going to be using to make a morningscape. If you don't know who morningscape is, he is my son. He also has a YouTube channel, mixer channel, and everything that I do. But I always, whenever I make a blute, I always make a morningscape to go along, because he's his little sidekick. If you haven't seen the pictures that I've drawn previous, definitely go again in the live events playlist or creation station. Right, without further ado, let's get some painting doing, because it needs to be done. I haven't got any paint. But yeah, I'll get that playlist playing in the background. Hopefully you liked it last time. We're going to be continuing on with that today. And yeah, let's get going.
Both incidents meant something.
A second one,
But
we've
what?
rats. I've got to
Who
do that.
was this Cassandra Greystone? He couldn't control her with his mind, as he could other humans. She wouldn't obey him. He'd tried, and nothing. She'd looked at him as if he hadn't willed anything of her, and as if she knew he'd tried and failed. Perplexing.
We
After
are
he
not
left
going to be needing
Greystone's house,
too much
he prowled
paint
the
today, but I will
streets of
put a
the
little
city.
splodge
The storm and the
yellow in there, because
had
why not?
emptied them.
Do we need
Care
blue?
the raindrops
We're going to
set
need
his
blue. We're
eyes
going to need
into
white
sand.
as well.
He wasn't afraid
What I'll
of
do is
the
I'll put
thunder
blue
and
there, and then
all
I'll
it
put a
did
little
was
bit of
reduce him to ashes.
white next to it, so I can just basically mix it. And then right next to that is the black.
His hunger was all he could feel. He'd nearly fed on that sick old woman in the bushes everyone.
If you want to know what this playlist that we're listening to, it is A Time of Demons Before the End. We're now, how many hours are we into this one? It's an 8-hour book altogether, but we're only into 2 hours. So yeah, that's worth checking out for yourself, because I more likely won't be listening to the whole thing on the stream.
Because of the sneaking suspicion Cassandra might have
Right, we need to make it purple as well, so we need a little bit of red.
He needed time to discover more about her, and the easiest way to do that was to get close to her. If he killed
A little bit of red.
she loved, never
Need a little bit of
There were
brown.
other humans to feed on.
We need any more brown in it.
The curb across the street in front of a
I don't think.
motel,
I mean, I think
and a
that
man
looks
got
okay for a worn thing.
Raynor
That
walked
he
up
will
to
hold
him
that.
through the rain. Get
I'll
back
go
in
into
the
his hand
car,
here.
he
And
ordered.
you hold that there,
And did as he was told.
like
The
so.
woman in the front seat scooted over.
He's always got a
so
little
they
weapon,
could sit next
and
to
that's
them.
his main weapon,
Raynor
the
made
staff
them drive
with
across the bridge
magic,
into the woods,
and
on
a
the
pointy
other
end
side of the
for
river,
slashing.
where he let his true
But he will hold
demon
other
self
things,
out.
like this little paintbrush that I made many. I think
Until they were
this was
both
the actual
dry
very first thing I
holes.
made out
Much
on the
later,
plate, just for a
He
test to
dug
see
up
how it
the
all
soft,
worked.
wet ground
And you
with
hold
his
that as well.
clawed hands and buried the corpses.
And if you
So
guys are,
no other
and
humans
you do
could
like
find
this
them. The two
video,
had
and you
been
do like the
newlyweds,
things that I'm making,
traveling
everything I'm
through
making
town.
is available
young
for
and
sale. So if you
dreams.
guys want to
The
buy
man
it, or if you want
graduated
me to
from
make your
college
own
in
particular
peace,
character,
and with his
I'll draw
bride
it first,
as
and then I'll make it in polymer clay,
where
and
he'd
then
been
I can
offered a
take it
job as a
and go into
manager in
VR and
design
make it in
firm.
VR as well.
The
So
woman
definitely let me know
wanted
in the
to teach
comments
the
down below
young humans.
what you want
She
made
too had had
next,
a job
other than
waiting
obviously
for
I'll
her.
be making
They
Morningscape.
found a perfect
That'll be
house.
next time. But if you want
Spent too
something,
much money
you've
on
got a whole month
The
next
woman
month
had plans
for
the garden.
things that you want me to
Tomatoes,
do.
corn, peas,
Drawing
plant
to
red roses up a white
polymer
trellis
clay
in the front
again,
yard.
and
He
then
read all
into
that
VR.
and more from their minds, and had felt nothing at ending all of it. They'd been horrified when they'd seen his demon face, horrified as he'd murdered them.
I
He'd
still didn't get
broken their
water.
necks quickly to be done with it, and he'd taken their blood. Raynor had no guilt when he killed. They were food, and he'd been hungry. So why were their faces already haunting him? No translucent pasty things escaped from their corpses when they died, or at least he didn't see them. He kept vigil over the remnants for a long time in the lightless woods, the raindrops tapping the summer leaves above him, but nothing rose out of their
Going with the blue or going
bodies,
with the yellow first?
wispy or otherwise. They were just bags of flesh and bones, like
I think I'll go with the lighter blue first. So we'll go
Perhaps He'd imagined that wispy thing last week,
Okay, that purple's still
and
good.
souls
Nice.
didn't really exist.
What I did, guys, because this paint
Who
will
were
obviously
supposed to
dry
be his
out,
arch enemies, or
but
so
I
we've always been told.
splodged a little, well, I
Underdeep
put too much
spoke
paint
of
in, so what I did
Some
to
said
keep
they'd
paint
known
fresh is I
another
put it into the
demon who had
fridge,
known
and it
another
keeps it all
demon who
fresh,
might have
so you can
seen
use it
one.
over and over and over
Myths,
again before you can
angels,
leave it overnight in the
with their
fridge.
ivory skin,
I wouldn't leave them
and
any more than over
graceful,
the night,
beautiful
because
winds
the paint
that could wrap
obviously
around
will
and
start
hide
to
them
cure.
from human
You
and
don't want that.
demon eyes, with their weapons of gleaming silver and their immense powers. Ha! Angels were supposed to exist, but, like unicorns, he'd never seen any in all his time on Earth. Not a one. And these days, he wanted to come across an angel because he was older, stronger, and, oh, so ready for the final fight. Were the old legends even true? There'd been times he'd sadistically exterminated more humans than necessary, hoping a white-winged one would swoop in to protect them or take revenge. They never did. And the greatest lie was the humans as God. There was no God. Mortals believed in him only because it made them feel better.
I don't know if I
More
like that. I
special.
think I'm going to have to go a little bit white,
Stupid
lighter. So let's
humans.
actually
Just
dab a little
like
bit black
there
in
was
there,
a
make it a bit more
supreme
grayer.
demon called Satan, who would someday lead his kind in the final war against God, angels, and humans. Huh. No souls, no angels, no God or Satan. All were made up nonsense to keep the troops in line. There was no
I'll just make grey, which I didn't want to do.
The world had no true purpose.
So a bit more white
Humans
in
and
there.
demons existed for no other
Make it a
reason.
lighter bluish.
just
We're going to have to put more
did.
blue in there.
Different
What have I
species.
done?
He and his brethren fed on blood as humans fed on the meat of dead animals, merely to survive. So why was he considered evil for killing while humans butchered and ate animal flesh all the time and weren't considered evil for it? Good question. But he knew the answer. Because mortals believed they owned the planet and were the chosen of their non-existent God because they had souls. Poppycock. Or so he'd always believed. Until his doubts returned.
I'm going to get some tissue,
Because
wipe off the paint I
he'd
put on
seen
there.
something come out of that body last week, as he'd seen Cassandra struck by lightning. So, therefore, if wonders and human souls did exist, what else existed that he didn't believe in? Oh, all of it was making his head hurt again. Driving the car back into the city to further cover his crime, he left it near the motel and transported back to Mrs. Tyler's house, but was too restless to stay there. Venturing out into the rainy night again, he found himself below Cassandra's window.
That'll do. Alright, I've got
He willed her.
go maybe a little bit lighter on that white there. Splash a bit more in.
He didn't fool himself. She didn't hear him.
Got the right tone. I just don't have the right. No, sorry, I haven't got the right colour, but I haven't got the right
He
tone
peered into her window.
that I want.
On her bed, at the far end of the room, covered only by a sheet, she was sleeping, tossing and turning. What was she dreaming about? He probed her dreams, but was blocked from entering them. That had never happened before either. Was he losing his powers? The very thought unnerved him. If his powers dwindled, which they weren't supposed to do, he'd be fodder for the young ones. Dead meat. Very bad. He could sneak in and whisper to Mrs. Tyler's, keep her there. The widow Tyler, so easily deceived, would be no problem.
Alexa, stop.
He could study her, dig out her secrets. He could make her tell him the truth, whatever that was. He didn't want to harm or kill her. She was an enigma, and he was curious. If she were a demon, she would be a force to reckon with. The rain was light, and the wind, along with the lightning and thunder, had died down as the night had progressed.
Okay.
It was almost
I'm only giving it a
morning,
splash and
and
bits
the
and bobs.
storm had worn itself out.
You obviously can't see what I'm doing, which I do apologise for, but
It was locked.
there isn't much I can do about that, unfortunately,
Tore
guys.
free. Inside, the air conditioning helped hide the noise.
Evan, you'll be
when
able to
gust
see
of
in a better
wind
view
rammed into him and blew him away from the house.
when
Fighting it did no good. The wind
I
ferociously
put out the
tossed him
recording.
every which way, as if it had been annoyed with him, as if he had been a
Getting
twig,
everywhere here
then
today.
deposited him in the mud miles away. Just like that. He sat
Love
up,
it.
blinking
Just
and
wanted to straight off.
disoriented. The wind
Right, okay.
had come out of
Do you need
nowhere.
to do his face?
It was as if it had targeted him,
Maybe have a tricky
got rid
one.
of him. Had Cassandra called it to take care of him, or had something else? Was someone or something very powerful protecting her? From the lightning? From him? From harm? Mystified, he beat the sun rays to his room. Not that he would have been in any danger if he'd been caught in the sunlight. It couldn't hurt him. But sometimes it was too bright. Sometimes it let his disguise slip. That was reason enough to avoid it. After he'd cleaned up, Raynor lay on his bed and sulked. How was he going to capture Cassandra if he couldn't get to her? Mulling that over, he assumed he'd find a way. He'd bumped into her on the street. He'd been able to stand beside her in her uncle's kitchen. So, perhaps, it was only when she was threatened that the defenses kicked in. Something was guarding her. He didn't know what, but there had to be a way to get past it. He slept until the sun set. The rain stopped, but the air was thick with homeless fog and static electricity. There was no moon, no stars, and only a vast expanse of cloudy, inky sky. Once awake, he found himself recreating the early times of his existence before he'd walked among the humans. He vaguely remembered moving through a shadowy land of spitting and moaning creatures as they gnawed and ripped at the flesh of the other inhabitants. There were cities in ruins and buildings of blackness full of screams. It was freezing, and then it was so hot his skin caught fire. The rain never ceased. Sometimes oil or acid fell from the skies and burned holes in his skin. He wandered, ran, or hid. Nothing made any sense. If he was
Around
there
really
for
gentle
what
like.
felt like an eternity. He'd always believed the dark city was something he'd invented in the deep recesses of his mind during his early existence. But it had been a long time since he thought about it. Until now, in that shadowy place, there was this beast, swathed in a thick mist, which the others were terrified of. And this entity spoke to him, offered him power and riches if he'd swear allegiance to it forever. It commanded him, go out into the world of man, torment, butcher, and destroy them. Take no prisoners. Show no mercy, until I call you back to me. The beast was sometimes as tall as a building, or as tiny as a firefly. But when it spoke, its voice permeated Raynor's whole being. Drink this. The beast in the mist bid him, and Raynor had obeyed. Captivated, he'd sworn his allegiance. He'd drunk the cup filled with briny liquid as bitter as sludge. After all, the city and the beast were only in his imagination. The long years and centuries had slid by, and he'd slowly become something else, had nearly forgotten that dark city and the creature he'd sworn fealty to. But now, unheard of for a demon, he'd begun to dream of the dark city and the beast in the mist again, and all the old memories came flooding back. Indeed, that very morning,
Okay, so that's
Raynor
all that.
remembered
That's actually
something
looking
he'd
pretty
all
good.
but
I like that.
forgotten. It had been
I'm
endless
gonna go to
centuries
finish.
before, when he'd been new.
And that's what I
and the
want to do
beast in
today
the
is
mist
finish.
had whispered to him, someday, payment
Maybe
will be
harder than it
asked of
looks though.
you, but not now.
I'm gonna make sure I get all the little bits that I missed, because
Payment
what I do
will be
sometimes
asked of you.
is when I'm painting
For
one bit, I'll
endless
tap
centuries,
another piece that
the
isn't
world
the
had
wrong
changed
colour or a
around
different
him,
colour.
But Raynor, feeling nothing
I don't
but the
really like
blood
doing that.
hunger and hatred for humans, never did. Until now, Somehow, he
That'll
was
do.
changing too.
I'll do for the blue.
He
What do you
began to
think?
have this
Looks no different.
fanatical certainty that there was
There we are.
someone or something out there that knew why he was there and knew what was coming. Someone or something.
I need to do
answer.
some.
He just had to find them. He'd become
Black.
a nomadic loner, weary
Or
of
is it black?
humans
Did
and
they
his
paint that
own
enough
kind.
colour? No, it's black.
Always
Right, if I
wondering
just get some black
and
sec.
hiding. Meeting
Wash
Cassandra
that out.
had unleashed so many inappropriate feelings and made him acutely aware of his isolation, his utter
I can
loneliness.
just touch up this
He even
mustache.
questioned the fragility he'd once associated with human beings, which was heresy, and couldn't figure out why she brought out those feelings in him, unless she was the one he'd been searching so long for, the one who might have the answers, the one who would change everything for him. He had to speak to her, alone. When full darkness came, he followed but kept his distance. A few nights a week, she went somewhere, and tonight he'd discover where. He'd find out what she did there, and if anyone met her, and he'd find some way to get to her. Chapter 7. Cassandra and Sarah. The ringing
So I really am
telephone
sorry you
woke
can't see what I'm
Cassandra.
doing here, guys.
What has Ellie done now? She thought. But it wasn't her uncle calling about her aunt. It was her friend, Sarah Hirsch. Good morning, Cassie. I heard about the bar fight last night at the red carpet. You and Johnny okay? Sure, we're fine. We ducked out before the roof fell in. How did you hear about it? It was on the TV news this morning. They had pictures and everything. They made it sound like you'd had a war in there. How bad was it? Well, I haven't seen the damage in the daylight, but as we were running out last night, the place looked pretty smashed up. Johnny and I are going in today to see how bad it is and offer our help to Maury for salvage duty. Cassandra glanced over at the clock on her nightstand. It had stopped sometime in the night and was blinking 12 o'clock. The storm must have shut off the electricity for a while, but it was back on again. What time is it anyway? It's after 10. Good thing you called. I might have slept half the day and I should have gotten up before this. Thanks. Cassandra muffled her yawn. You're welcome. You still sound tired to me, Cassie. I am. On top of everything, after that brawl at the red carpet, I had to go chasing after Ellie last night in the storm with Uncle George. Ah, she broke out again, huh? Oh, so you know about her prison breaks, huh? Your uncle's mentioned them to me. Yeah, he's at his wit's end. Anyway, she escaped through the hallway window, but we found her, with help from a neighbor, and she's fine. Safe in their apartment as we speak, I hope. She really led us in a wild chase last night, scared the heck out of us. Your poor uncle. Poor Ellie, too. Sarah knew about Ellie's Alzheimer's. She was more than familiar with the disease. I remember Grandma Chloe's manic escapades, mood swings, and neighborhood wanderings all too well, as I'm sure you do. Remember? She drove us all bonkers. Most of the time she was oblivious to the turmoil she was causing. Oh, I remember. Didn't she live to 100 or something?
Little purple dragon.
Sarah said.
No, lizard.
All our caretakers.
Purple dragon lizard thing. I
That's
don't
the
know.
way it
It's very
usually
dark on the
goes.
screen, but trust me, it's a
Family
lot
has it harder
lighter
than
than
the
it looks.
At the end, Grandma was out of it, but we still had to
Right,
deal.
sash.
Great.
A bit of purple in that
We have
sash.
so much to look forward to then, Cassandra moaned.
I think I'll lighten that up a bit.
mess last night, let me tell you. She's getting more and more agitated. Her behavior more erratic. I don't know what we're going to do if she gets much worse. One of these days, she's going to take off and we're not going to find her. It happens. One time, Grandma Chloe was missing for days. We had to call the police. Search parties and everything. When we finally found her, she was seeing walking buildings and was half starved. After that, we had to put her in that convalescent home. My mother said it was the hardest thing she'd ever had to do. I was pretty young, but I remember most of it. Cassandra sat up in bed, the telephone cradled in one hand at her ear. She didn't want to hear any more about Sarah's grandmother, who'd ended up dying from Alzheimer's in a state nursing home. It was too depressing. So, you only called to see if I was still alive? Her tone was as amiable as she could make it that early in the morning. It was no longer raining, but the clouds
Back
crowded close to the earth. And by the way, the trees
Have a quick
were
look
swaying.
around a
It was
second.
still windy.
If I've
The
missed
sun
any bits,
was
which I have.
That and Cassandra waited. What? She'd caught the uncertainty in her friend's usually sunny voice. Sarah couldn't hide anything from her, never could. They'd been friends since
That's the bit I
grade
can't
school.
get to.
Sarah was the
Well, I
only
think
other
I'll leave
person
that.
besides Johnny,
Risk
George,
of
and
ruining
Abby,
things.
who'd known Cassandra's family when they'd all been alive, and was still
There
friends
we are,
with her.
guys. His little sash again. It
Sarah's father had been
looks a lot darker on the actual video, but that's purple.
Once.
You can see it better on my posts, which I've been posting on TikTok and Instagram.
and had musical
But again,
talent.
you get a better
The
view of
Hershey's
the
thought
colours
she'd be a good
in.
influence on their bohemian daughter. It hadn't worked. Sarah had grown up to be a gypsy
recorded
card
version.
and palm reader, and Cassandra saw dead people before they died. Not the most normal of women. Sarah's parents were gone now, too. Her father died young from lung cancer, and her mother soon after from pneumonia. Sarah had no siblings, but the past was a strong bond between the two women, and they were closer because of the losses. They'd adopted each other as sisters. I did a tarot spread on you last night, Sarah said, and girl, it wasn't good. Oh my, here she goes again. Sarah had seen big trouble coming for Cassandra for months, and she never missed a chance to remind her it was coming. My friend Sarah the Oracle, at it again, hey? I asked you to please stop reading my cards. I don't believe in them, or tea leaves or palms, or crystal balls. Might as well take those daily newspaper horoscopes seriously. A chuckle slipped out. It wasn't that she thought Sarah was foolish for believing what she believed, but something inevitably showed up in Cassandra's reading to upset her. Then it slopped over to upset Cassandra. Since the fire, Cassandra had been Sarah's favorite subject.
Right.
According to Sarah, something
Get some
about
yellow
the
on
alignment of the stars Cassandra had been born under
Oh, got yellow in
gave
there.
her life a massive dose of tragedy.
Do I want
and
straight up
destiny.
yellow, or do I want I don't want any more orange
So
in
big,
there.
Sarah was constantly trying to uncover what it was. What was supposed to happen next? It consumed and intrigued her. Please protect me from card-dealing gypsies, Cassandra mused, and Chinese cookie fortunes. Cassandra never got mad at Sarah because her friend only wanted to protect her. A shame Sarah hadn't read the cards before the fire, but she'd been 10 years old and had just begun playing with the Ouija board. The tarot cards hadn't come into the picture for another 6 years. Now, Cassie, don't make fun of me. You know I take the cards seriously. Too seriously, Cassandra thought, but didn't say it. Sarah's feelings were easily hurt. She really believed in the stars, cards, omens, and magic. Cassandra only believed in God. Aunt Ellie, being a godly woman, hated the tarot and the Ouija. Be careful, Sarah, she used to say. Those cards are a door for all manner of evil or demons to sneak through into this world. Sometimes, with the way the readings went, Cassandra wondered if there wasn't some truth to that. Cassandra pacified her friend. So, what did the cards show you this time? She took the phone and crawled out of bed. It was cool in the room. She turned down the air conditioner and went into the bathroom. You got a heap of trouble coming right at you, girlfriend. A heap? Well, last night was no picnic. Maybe that's the trouble you saw. No, I don't think so. The cards say life and death. A huge struggle between good and evil with you and those you love caught smack dab in the middle. A little general, isn't it? Not to me. Oh, Sarah, why do you want to worry me so? I'm trying to warn you, not worry you. Sarah cautioned Cassandra all the time about one thing or another she saw in the cards, so it was natural to brush it aside, though this time she sounded more grave than usual. I mean, I have a creepy feeling about this one, Cassie. It's huge. Your cards have been hinting at and building towards it for years. Cassandra sighed into the phone. I need to get something to eat and get going, Sarah. Can we discuss this later? Like tomorrow? I don't think it can wait. Anyway, I'm already here. Look out your front window in the driveway. Cassandra left the bathroom, went to the window. There was Sarah in the driveway, sitting in her old green Cavalier. She was grinning innocently through the front windshield, a white paper bag in one hand and her cell phone in the other. The paper bag waved at Cassandra. Sarah knew how to get to her. What's in the bag? Something you really like? Hardee's sausage and egg biscuits? The perfect breakfast. All you have to do is make the coffee. She had her. Okay, come on up. But I can't lollygag and gossip too long. I got places to be and things to do. She didn't actually mean it. She was happy to see her friend and the biscuits. Unlocking the door, Cassandra went to grab her robe. When she walked into the kitchen to make coffee, Sarah was already there, putting food on a plate, getting out the cups and saucers. Cassandra towered over the shorter, more petite woman. They were an odd pair. One pale, with flowing ash blonde hair, vivid green eyes, and the other with skin the color of light milk chocolate, bright henna hair, and soft brown eyes. Sarah was half African American on her mother's side. You know you sure are a pest, Cassandra told Sarah as she snatched a biscuit and ate it while making the coffee. Java will be done here real quick. Good, I need an enormous cup. The table ready, Sarah plumped down into a chair, pushing her frizzy hair back from her freckled face. Cassandra thought her friend was pretty, but Sarah didn't think she was. Her golden hoop earrings glinted in the dim light. Her frilly peasant blouse was cherry red, her slacks a wild print. It wasn't long before she had the tarot cards out on the table. Her plump fingers and hands, bejeweled with antique rings and talismanic bracelets, hovered over the fanciful pictures. Cut these, she insisted politely. With your touch on them, I'm going to do a real reading. Double check, maybe I was wrong. We can only hope. Cassandra frowned at her friend, but gave in. Sarah was a bulldog when she got something in her head. But beneath her irritation, Cassandra was grateful for Sarah that morning.
Some of it's hidden.
Her mind off those other things bothering
it's most
her.
of it's hidden. I don't
Her aunt
care.
and uncle were sympathetic people, but
Very much I can do about it.
problems of their own. And Johnny was a good
Damn
guy.
near I've
He
tried.
was a guy and tended to slough
Ooh, look at
off
the difference
things
on that.
Cassandra took more seriously. But Sarah was there whenever she
down there.
needed her. A
You see
friend
the
who would
difference?
listen
No,
and
you
advise
can't.
on
Just can't
all
see it.
matters.
There's the
small
yellow I've
and
just
large.
painted, and there's
One of
the
those
orangey
people
yellow.
who gave far more
It's coming
than she
through.
took, and they
Nicely.
were rare.
More
There weren't
painted.
enough of those in the world.
There it looks, I
Tell
think.
me in more detail about what went down last night, Sarah requested as she delved
I'm gonna turn them right around now so I can do what I'm doing.
cards. Her velvet amber eyes moving between what was laid out on the table before
Oh
her.
god, I can't believe this
and
is
her
taking me
friend's
3
face.
coats and I've still got
Cassandra
bits here and
quickly
there everywhere.
summarized what she wanted her friend to know for now. The bar fight, Ellie's flight. By the time she'd finished,
But it's good
Sarah
practice.
was ready to
It's
tell her
everything
what
I know
she
now.
saw in the reading.
I didn't know
These
before.
specific cards show grievous events. Look here. She tapped a card.
So when I do
It's the
morning
death
skates, I
card.
know to
This
probably
second
give it
one
a base
predicts
coat
great
first.
change. This
Of
one,
one colour,
dangerous
maybe?
upheaval. Whatever is coming
And then-
is truly bad.
No, I think
never
I like the
seen
way I
such
did it
an
this
awful
time.
combination of cards in one reading. I mean it. I'd say almost apocalyptic. Please. Listen, Cassandra, I have to tell you, I'm getting really scared. I've seen other signs, and not just to do with you, but with the world. I've had dreams. Cassandra didn't want to be hearing that the world was on the brink of Armageddon first thing after waking up. She gave Sarah a lot of leeway with all the mystic mumbo-jumbo. But this was too much. Apocalyptic? Really? She had more practical matters to worry about, such as what she and Johnny were going to do for money if the red carpet didn't reopen, or who was going to take Ellie to her next doctor visit tomorrow afternoon. She and Johnny usually took turns, but now that Johnny's car wasn't working, it looked as if she would have to do it again, as well as pick up Uncle George's prescriptions, or was it Ellie's pills this time? So, Cassandra tried not to grin nervously over what Sarah was telling her, but was having a hard time. Now Sarah was dreaming, having visions as well. What have you been dreaming of? Don't laugh at me, Cassie, but I've been dreaming of demons. Demons? Now Cassandra's smile froze on her lips. Something deep inside her was in a cold sweat. She'd been having dreams too, besides seeing things, but hadn't wanted to admit they meant something, even to herself. She ate another bite, then poured a cup of coffee for both of them. Demons with beady, glowing eyes, scales, long pointed tails, and sharp fangs. Ugly spawns of Satan-type demons, the kind in horror flicks. Yes? Sarah's head was down again, her concentration on the cards. She hadn't eaten one biscuit and abruptly gulped down her coffee as if she were dying of thirst. Sarah believed coffee solved everything. If one were tired, drink coffee. If one were down, drink coffee. If one were frightened out of one's wits, drink coffee. It worked for her. Well,
No.
I assume they're
Drink
demons.
tea.
They're these
You're having a
ugly,
problem?
deformed
Drink tea.
creatures
You're
surrounded
tired?
by such
Drink coffee.
malevolence, it makes my skin crawl. Her tiny nose wrinkled. They stink.
Don't make it the bloody American way either, making it a bloody microwave.
And what
What's all that about?
exactly, Cassandra asked, are these demons
Tea
doing?
is
in my
made
dreams?
with a
Sarah met her
kettle.
gaze.
You can boil
They're
your water
attacking
on a
us.
hob, never in a
Attacking
microwave.
There's a whole army of them endlessly pouring up from what I assume is hell. All kinds. Small, large, some with lizard-like blood-colored skin, and some as black as pitch.
Black
It's the end
as
of the world as
pitch.
we know it. Huh. You watched
so let's
too
paint
much
the
Buffy the
outside
Vampire
of the
Slayer,
wings.
I'd say, girl. You sure do have an imagination. You ought to be writing
a bit
horror
more yellow in there.
novels. You do good at it. You don't take this seriously, do you? Oh, Sarah, how can I? They're just dreams. You've always had kooky dreams in full color, showing really bizarre stuff. If I took all your dreams seriously, I'd be in a cuckoo house somewhere. It was true. As most artistic people, Sarah had always had a very brilliant imagination. These are different, Cassie. I can't explain it, but they're so real. And along with these readings of yours point to you. I don't know exactly what connection there is yet, but I'll bet there is one, or will be one. Cassandra had a fleeting image of translucent apparitions in graveyards. Melting human faces. No, think about something else. There is no connection. Am I in the dreams? Sarah hesitated and nodded her head. Lately, you have been. A sigh. Cassandra waited to hear what she'd been doing in them, but Sarah didn't elaborate. Instead, there was an odd look on her friend's face as her eyes left the last card she'd turned over and came to rest on Cassandra. What was I doing in them, Sarah? Don't laugh and don't freak out. Sarah, you were fighting them? That's what you were doing? I was fighting demons? Yeah, with guns and swords. I think it was a premonition. Was Johnny with me? Cassandra didn't know why she asked that, but she did. You know, come to think about it, he was. He fighting demons too? A faint smirk claimed her mouth. He was. Fat chance. You know Johnny's afraid of anything that has teeth or anything with sharp edges. For crying out loud, she sputtered. You're watching too much TV. Can we talk about something else? We can if you promise to think about what I've said and to be extra careful in the near future. Cassandra cocked her head. I'm always careful. If I see a demon, with or without a tail and fangs, I'll be sure to stomp on it. Then I'll call you and tell you all about it. Sarah flashed her a sharp look. Okay. I'll be careful, Cassandra promised. Just don't speak any of this to Uncle George or Aunt Ellie. Especially Aunt Ellie. In her frame of mind these days, as religious as she is, heaven knows how she'd react. She'd most likely grab a weapon and want to fight for the Lord, and then she'd promptly forget what the weapon was for and shoot her own foot. And my uncle thinks it's the end times anyway. All it would do is spook the bejesus out of them both. I won't say anything to them. I know better. Your uncle has enough to drive him crazy, and your aunt too. But you must agree to let me do another reading on you in a few days. I need to keep an eye on this.
All right, there's one side.
Blackmail, huh? If I
And the
have
next
to.
side, again, this is really, really bright.
That's all. I know.
But
Cassandra
it's
patted her friend's shoulder.
definitely changed color.
Okay, if you must, come over anytime. Read my fortune 100 times if it makes you feel better. I'll even roll my naked body all over the deck if it'll help. Now, here, have a biscuit and put those stupid cards away. They're not stupid, Sarah groused, but slid the cards into her box and put it in her purse. By the way, aside from Ellie's breakouts, how are your aunt and uncle doing these days? About the same. He's old and tired and his blood pressure is up. But you know Uncle George, he's hanging in there. Ellie's a handful, but my uncle loves her and takes good care of her no matter how peculiar her behavior. He's so patient with her. Last night, he didn't mind going out in the storm, getting soaked, as long as we found her. Knowing better, Cassandra didn't mention the strange man next door. In Sarah's frame of mind, she might think Raynor was one of those demons from her nightmares or something, skulking around, watching her for heaven knows what reasons. The two friends were silent as they drank their coffee. And how's Johnny? There was a spark in Sarah's eyes that Cassandra caught before her friend looked down, pretending to be busy eating. Sarah had been sweet on Johnny when they were kids, but over the years she'd come to think of him more as a brother. Cassandra knew Sarah would do anything for Johnny if he asked. Oh, Johnny's Johnny, you know. His car's broken down again. Cassandra rolled her eyes. He's fixing it himself, with some help from a friend. Oh, and you'll be glad to know he's writing more songs. The dry spell's over. Cassandra almost added that she thought he'd gotten hurt in the bar fight the night before, and the wound had inexplicably healed, but at the last moment kept it to herself. Sarah would only see it as another omen that he was in danger too, and Sarah was obsessing enough. He got a steady girlfriend yet? Well, kinda. There's this girl that keeps pestering him at the club. She's cute, but as usual, too young. I think he's going out with her, though he won't own up to it. Her name's Zoe, and she's into the goth look, you know, dresses in black leather, with globs of eyeliner, makeup, has piercings in her eyebrows, nose, and tongue. She's a real trip. Johnny's smitten. This week, anyway. You know how fickle he is when it comes to the girls. Sarah's expression was unreadable. Goth, huh? That's so yesterday. Some of those goth followers believe in vampirism and the occult. That's not good. You can't trust him. He should stay away from her and her friends, especially in light of what the cards are revealing. Are you serious? I'm not fooling. Tell him to be careful. Stay among crowds of people if he's with her, and positively don't go to any of those rave parties. Okay, I'll give him the message. Goth girls are bad. Rave parties are a no-no. Stay away. Not that he'll listen. Enough about Johnny's dating habits. And how are you doing these days? Cassandra went on to a new subject. Still seeing what's his name? Walter? Yeah, him. Walter was a professional mime and clown who worked a carnival circuit across the Midwest. People made good-humored jokes when Sarah spoke of him, but according to her, he was sensitive, talented, and good at his job, which he'd trained for most of his life. There was nothing funny about that. His father and grandfather before him had been circus clowns, while his mother had been part of a high-wire act.
Okay.
Walter sounded like a nonconformist,
right.
But Sarah
I'm liking
maintained
this.
he was a generous.
I'm going to put a little bit orange on around the
religious
wings, on the bone parts, as I call them.
When he said he was going to do something, he did it.
But I'm pretty much finished, guys.
Sarah had been seeing him for months. But
Apart from a touch-up here and there for
gigs
obviously
Cassandra
the little
and Johnny
mistakes
had
that I've
out of
made,
the city,
it's not
Cassandra
looking too
hadn't
bad now.
actually met him yet.
We're at 44
Often
minutes, so
Sarah went out of
that's
town
really
to
good.
visit him. I guess so. He must be trying to save on his phone bills or something, Belle.
Let's wet
He
this brush
hasn't
a little
called in
bit.
a few days, but the carnival moves around so much it
mix
keeps
this
him busy.
orange.
Last I heard, they were out by the Canadian border, visiting a bunch of towns you can hardly find on a map. Walter says that the remote villages appreciate them more than larger towns. I'll be glad when the summer's over and they take their winter break. I miss him. Miss being with him and talking to him. Is he staying?
I'm going to eat loads, but I am going to eat quite a bit.
Cassandra enjoyed visiting with her friend, but it was getting late. She was in a hurry to get to the red carpet and see if it was standing.
Well, it's different. It's separation between the bone parts and the feathers.
Check on her aunt and uncle before she left. As far as I know, if something else doesn't get in the way, I don't want to scare you, but who knows where any of us will be or what we'll be doing this winter if the cards speak the truth. On that cheery note, Gypsy girl, I'm going to shove you and the rest of your sausage biscuits out the door so I can do what I need to do. Why did you bring so much food?
Biscuits.
I thought we were on diets. Not today. We'll start tomorrow.
Interesting.
She was always saying that. I brought extra biscuits so you could doggy bag the leftovers to your aunt and uncle, knowing they love them too, since they don't get out much to buy goodies for themselves these days. That was sweet of you, Sarah. They'll be tickled you thought of them. Cassandra closed the bag and left it on the table. I was going to stop by to see them anyway before I went to the club. Well, say hi for me. Tell your uncle next time I'll come by and visit, but I have to rush off myself. There's a psychic fair at the Civic Center. Nancy Gordon and I rented a booth for the next 2 afternoons. You remember her? My stately friend who works downtown for the electric company, loves peanuts and reads tea leaves. We split the costs and I need to get there. They said goodbye. Through the kitchen window, Cassandra watched Sarah's car drive off.
I can't cover this over it. It's blue. I've got everywhere.
And took a quick shower, dressed, and knocked on her uncle's door. When there wasn't an answer, she used her key and let herself in. Everything looked normal, but no one was up yet. The coffee hadn't been made. Her uncle was probably sleeping in late after the chaotic night he'd had. Let him sleep. He needs it. She left the bag on the table with a note saying where she'd be and that she'd be back later if she could. Johnny wasn't ready by the time she arrived, but she hurried him along, and by 12 they were walking into Maury's club. Yikes, it looks worse in the light of day than it did last night, Johnny muttered as they worked their way through the rubble. Whoa, someone smashed all the booze and gouged Maury's new bar top. Why would anyone want to do that? He shook his head. Their boss was sitting at one of the tables that had been left in one piece, his head in his hands, complaining under his breath. So, is the patient terminal? Cassandra queried as they stood next to him and assessed the damage. Maury lifted his head. No, I've seen worse. And no one was hurt too badly. One man's in the hospital with a broken arm, and a woman got her ribs kicked in. Other than that, there were mainly bumps, scratches, and bruised feelings. But my bar's a mess. Maggie and I have been cleaning up, but we're going to need help if we're going to get the place ready for business by Thursday. Weekends were Maury's busiest times, and financially speaking, they began on Thursdays. She sat down across from him.
Can't wait when I do my dirty YouTube stuff.
Their equipment and
Monday's always starting on a Saturday because I start planning and what I'm going to be doing.
All our stuff's still here, Johnny affirmed.
For the week coming. From across by Thursday, I've had enough.
Cassandra turned back to Maury. So,
okay, I'm going to have to let that dry. There's no point overlacking something that's still wet because it just doesn't do anything. It just takes it off half the time.
I did seriously consider it last night after the
I've got not much left to paint on this one.
You know,
a little bit of green here.
And it's not as bad as it looks. Insurance will take care of
a little bit of blue there.
So I think we can reopen in a few days. Just going to take some work and elbow grease. A little carpentry. Well, that's why Johnny and I are here. We can help with the cleanup. And we're handy with
oh, that's 50 minutes. So that's the PlayStation. Needing to pause. Give me a second while I switch that over. Alexa, stop.
And you're hired. Can you start now? Maury, an average-looking man of 50, with a sharp face, thinning brown hair and warm brown eyes.
I'm going to reset that a second, guys. As you know, I use my
Who'd
PS4
burned
to
out
record
as a
everything.
history teacher. He'd taken over the club when he'd inherited it from his father 3 years before. He was learning what it took to run it smoothly and was turning out to be an astute businessman as well as a fair one. Cassandra really liked him. He was a good man. We're here, aren't we? We're dressed to
Alexa,
start clearing everything.
Set 15 minutes on a timer.
15 minutes,
Ah,
starting
never
now.
hears me properly. Alexa, set 50 minutes on a timer.
Second timer, 50 minutes,
Yeah.
starting now.
Bloody machine.
With a fair wage,
Right.
whatever you think is the going rate. Write up a bid. Buy whatever materials, hire extra help if you need to.
Okie dokie,
How long do you think it'll take to get
I've
this
got all the
place in
wings
shape
done.
again? You have a lot of work to
Said I was
do.
going to do a little bit of
And
green.
yes, we'll start now.
Green brush through
Hopefully
green.
we'll get it presentable by Thursday. Because you know, the show must go on. Cassandra came to her feet and motioned to Johnny to come over. Time to work, brother. Clean up first. I'm ready. He had a broom in one hand and a trash bag in the other. At the end of the day, Cassandra offered to make supper for her brother at her place. He checked his wristwatch. Thanks, but not tonight, sis. Ricky will be over at 7 to work on my car. He's trading me the used parts for beer and guitar lessons. Ricky was a friend of Johnny's who worked at a neighborhood mechanics shop. A convenient friend, since Johnny could barely change a car tire and always needed car repairs. And Ricky wanted to play guitar, an association made in financial heaven. Johnny was teaching him to play, and Ricky helped with the car. Though he was tired and dirty, Johnny smiled. They'd gotten the bar cleaned up, made a list of the materials needed for the next morning's work, and had ordered new tables and chairs. 2 more of Johnny's friends were coming in the next day to lend them a few extra hands. Everything was under control. Cassandra kept up with her brother as they went out the door, asking him one last thing about the remodeling.
Okay,
When
so
Satan made
just
her
move him
turn
over
her
here because he's
head
not.
and glanced back at
You
me.
get a good old look at him while I
The woman
sort
was
out the
behind
staff.
the bar,
I'm not going to do any more
sweeping
brown
off
for the
the
staff
grass
because I
and
don't think
grass.
it needs doing.
She caught
I am going to
Cassandra
make the
grin.
top part an egg,
Good night,
so
sweetie.
that needs to be painted
See you
up white.
tomorrow.
Obviously, that's going to take a few
Tomorrow.
coats
But Cassandra's
and some
skin
actual white paint.
flushed as she
And
realized
for that,
her
I'm going to leave as is because I
tomorrow
kind of
would
like the
never
way
come.
the
woman
chain
would be
looks.
dead.
And when I can hook it over, it
Oh,
kind of looks like a golden, worn-out
not
chain.
She
So
wasn't
that's what I'm going to do with
old.
that.
She had
Um,
children. Cassandra froze
But I
in the
need a
doorway
really fine
and
tip
stared at the
brush now.
sign on the other woman's forehead. It was a red smudge, faint and
Not
pulsating.
bloody.
Cassandra could warn her,
I don't
but it
want
wouldn't
it.
do any good. She'd seen
Guess
2
it's
people
going to have
marked
to be
for
the ones
death
I've got
in
here.
3 days.
Already out.
A
That's too
record.
big. That's too big.
What did it mean? Perhaps Sarah had been right. Bad things
The other one's
were
got a nice
coming.
tip to it.
Forget something? Maggie's
Fairly good
hands
tip.
stopped moving.
Got a
No,
fairly good tip to that
just
because I want to paint the
thinking.
yellow here
Cassandra hated lying, but there was
on
nothing
the
else
staff
to say.
in like
Good night,
a
Maggie.
like
You
maybe a
take care
golden
now.
yellow.
She let
Maybe
the door
I'll
shut softly
squirt a
behind
little
her
bit more
and
yellow
pushed
down
out into the evening. It had begun to rain
because I
again.
like the yellow.
No surprise there. It matched her mood because she felt like crying. Maggie had become more than an acquaintance, a little less than a friend, but knowing the other woman's fate made Cassandra immensely sad because she couldn't change it and hated it. People died every day, minute, second, since the beginning of time. Nothing could stop that. Why did she think she could make a difference? Don't do this to yourself. In the car, Johnny asked her right off. I know you, sis. What's wrong? Maggie's going to die. I saw it. Oh, no. Her brother hung his head. She has kids. I know. A tiny voice. The 2 were silent the rest of the way to Johnny's apartment. There was nothing else to say. Nothing could save Maggie, and they knew it. They were tired from the day and the night before. Maggie's destiny was too much to face at that moment. This hasn't been a good week, Cassie. Johnny's voice was gloomy. No, it hasn't, and her brother didn't know the half of it. After she dropped him off, she drove to Holy Family, a large ivory stone church on 3rd Street that had been there since the 1930s. She'd been going to it since she'd been a kid. It had been her family's house of worship. The church her mother and father had been married at, and the children christened in. The church they'd gone to on Sundays when they'd been a complete, happy family. She hadn't been there in a while, and sat quietly in a wooden pew surrounded by incense, the holy statues of the saints and memories of her family. Being there gave her peace of mind. She said prayers for Maggie, her kids. She lit candles for Aunt Ellie, her dead family. Maybe God didn't see the candles, didn't care, but it made her feel better. She longed to feel her family sitting around her again in the pews, under the stained glass windows. Sometimes she thought she could almost see them. They were smiling ghosts beside her, whispering and giggling, and paging through their hymn books, singing, their voices mingling together, off-key at times, in her head. Why, she petitioned God, if she were seeing ghosts anyway, couldn't she see the spirits of her family? Those were ghosts she wouldn't mind being haunted by. She missed them so much. Instead, at times like now, she exchanged secrets with their memories and updated them on how Johnny and she were getting along, what was happening in their lives.
Okay, a little bit of
How
white
Kelly and George were
on
faring.
top.
She didn't want them to think she'd forgotten any of them. She never would. She discussed the recent events with each one individually, as she'd been doing since the fire. It made her feel closer to them, as if they weren't really gone. Elizabeth, who'd been the oldest at 17, with her chestnut curls and uppity manners, the beauty of the family, had wanted to be a fashion designer when she grew up. Instead, she'd burned in the fire and went to heaven. Cassandra told her about the bar fight. You and Johnny were lucky to have gotten out without a scratch, Elizabeth whispered in Cassandra's mind. It could have been a lot worse. I know. Be careful. I worry about you. Cassandra smiled at the empty air beside her. Ben, at 15, had been the dark-headed one, most like their kind father, quiet. He'd had a passion for music similar to Johnny's and listened to the radio constantly. He'd wanted a new electric guitar or a piano, but Mom and Dad hadn't had the money. Ben used to say that when he grew up, he'd get a job in a traveling band, be a rock star. He'd buy all the instruments he wanted. Well, he'd had the looks for it.
There you go. It's not completely white, but it's looking okay. That's the idea of what I want to go with. Like an egg at the top.
As sweet as chocolate. With a husky, soulful voice, he had the charisma, and probably would have been singing with her and Johnny if he'd been alive today. Sometimes, when she was performing on stage with Johnny, she almost thought she heard Ben singing there beside them, standing tall, with his thoughtful face, dark eyes, and shoulder-length hair as black as a raven's feathers. He'd be grinning, his long, slender fingers caressing the frets of a ghost guitar, and his mellow voice blending in sweetly with theirs. I've been seeing weird things, Ben.
There we go. I can't really touch that anywhere now. Kind of have to leave it dry.
I'm watching out for you.
So there again, once again, the original picture.
She could take care of herself, but wouldn't hurt Ben's feelings for
And
anything.
there's what I've made.
Let him think it made her feel more secure.
I'll give you a zoom in like I always do. But that is coming to the end of this whole project. So hopefully you have enjoyed this project, guys. And if you're watching here on the PlayStation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, again, my name is Blut084, BLUT084. This is Blue Angel. Please let me know which one you prefer, and I will officially name him. But until then, guys, and if you want some polymer clay, check out the playlist. I'm going to say,
with her shiny caramel
stop that playlist there in the background. Again, the playlist that we're listening to, the audio book that we're listening to, is a time of demons before the end. So yeah, if you want to check out the rest of that story for yourself, because I do recommend doing that and finding out, seeing the rest of that. But until then, guys, thanks for watching. Tune in for some more polymer clay. And I'm going to give you a zoom in before we leave. There's the picture. And there's what I've made. The wings were a bit of a pig, and if you want to find out on any part of how I made and what I made and what I used, you can do, because every part was live and every part was recorded. So you guys get to see how I did everything, how I did to make the wings, and what struggle it was to get them to be where they are and stay there. That was a pain. But yeah, little tail down there, little wrap around his legs, wings we painted today, his cloth and things for his back. I explained why I put cloth over his back yesterday instead of leaving it wings a bra. And yeah, he'll be holding his little weapon just down here. Staff of power, should we call it, maybe? I don't know. There's a staff, and there is a little necklace. Now, again, I'm not going to touch because I like the way it looks worn out. And for a chain. But yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Click the links that will appear. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Bye.